Have you ever paused, truly paused, just to ask yourself, why do I always feel like I'm rushing through life? Why is my mind never truly at ease? We grow up in noise. We learn how to chase goals we never questioned. We hurry to attach our names to roles, the good child, the capable colleague, the successful adult in society's eyes. And one day, between notifications, unread emails, and unspoken emotions, our mind becomes a box filled with automatic responses. Maybe you thought you were awake, but ask yourself, do you truly see what's happening inside you? Do you recognize the impulses that flare up, the quiet fears that shape your choices, the subtle attachments disguised as logic? The truth is, most of the time, we're not living. We're reacting. We react to loneliness by craving attention. We react to insecurity by chasing achievements. We react to inner emptiness by consuming more, doing more, distracting more. And still, life feels heavy. But what if there's another way to live? Not by escaping, not by fixing everything, but by seeing clearly as things are, without judgment, without clinging, without fear. That is the essence of Vipassanā meditation. Vipassanā isn't relaxation. It isn't mysticism. It's not belief or ritual. Instead, it asks you to look deeply, honestly, into the cycles of suffering. And from that clear seeing, freedom begins to arise. Maybe you've tried many paths before, reading, mindfulness apps, therapy, pilgrimage, prayer, and yet, somewhere within, there remains a quiet thirst to truly see, to wake up, to live honestly with yourself. Vipassana asks for no faith. It only asks that you observe with deep silence and a gentle courage. And if you observe long enough, sincerely enough, something begins to shift. That journey begins right now. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to change who you are. You only need to be here and see. So sit, take a deep breath, and enter this 60-minute journey, not to meditate as another task, but to return to what has always been with you. Awareness, Vipassana meditation, a 60-minute inner journey. Learn and practice Satipaṭṭhāna. Section 1. What is Vipassana? 1.1. What is Vipassana? There are things we see every day, yet we never truly see clearly, but rather a form of inner seeing, a way of looking without attachment, without judgment, without embellishment, and without reaction. Vipassana is often translated as insight meditation, because its goal is not temporary calm or comfort, but rather deep wisdom into the true fabric of reality. In Vipassana, the practitioner does not aim to reach a special mental state. Observe the arising and passing of sensations, the birth of thoughts, the movements of the body, and the reactions of the mind. Observe all these phenomena as they are, with mindfulness, sati, and clear comprehension, sampajañña. So what is the true essence of Vipassana? It is the direct observation of four foundations, Satipaṭṭhāna: body, kaya, feeling the breath, postures, movements, and elements directly. Feeling, vedana, noticing the sensations of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tone. Mind, citta, observing the mental states such as distraction, anger, focus, desire. Mental phenomena, dhamma, seeing mental patterns, hindrances, and insight into impermanence, suffering. And non-self, by seeing these objects clearly through the lens of impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. It asks for no conversion to any religion. It has nothing to do with dogma and everything to do with direct personal experience. The Buddha himself taught, "Come and see for yourself, ehipassiko." Don't believe just because someone says so. Don't believe because it's written in scripture. See it for yourself. Vipassana is a path for those who wish to realize truth firsthand. It is outlined in great detail in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, one of the most important discourses ever given by the Buddha, in which he declared, "This is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true path, for the realization of nibbana." Unlike meditative practices focused solely on concentration, like samatha, which will be discussed next, Vipassana does not emphasize deep absorption or mental stillness for its own sake. Rather, it cultivates just enough focus to serve as a foundation for mindful observation of the body and mind as they unfold in the present moment. We suffer not because of life itself, but because we don't understand how our mind works. Vipassana helps to illuminate this inner mechanism, so we are no longer pulled and pushed by it. It's not about becoming better, but about releasing the illusion that we are in control of impermanent things. And in that letting go, freedom begins to emerge. In summary, Vipassana is a journey of returning to truth through the capacity for sustained, mindful observation. It doesn't promise happiness in the future. It offers clarity in the present. No belief required. Not thinking right. In today's world, people are smarter than ever. We study more, access information in an instant, and can analyze just about anything. And yet, despite knowing what's right, we still suffer. We know we should let go, but we cling. We know something is harmful, yet we continue. We know we should be mindful, but the mind keeps drifting into the past or future. This is the core distinction between intellect and insight, between logical reasoning and the direct seeing that arises in Vipassana. When we analyze, we remain outside of the experience. But when we see clearly, we are fully immersed in reality, free from labels, concepts, or expectations. This kind of seeing doesn't come through words. It doesn't require theories. It simply means to observe what is happening right now without interference. Vipassana asks nothing of you in terms of belief. It doesn't require subscribing to any religion or ideology. It doesn't care if you understand Buddhist cosmology or believe in karma or rebirth. The only thing it asks is deceptively simple, yet deeply challenging. Look directly at your present moment experience and don't interfere. What does that mean? It means to feel discomfort without trying to get rid of it. To notice a negative thought without immediately rejecting it or getting swept away. To sit with loneliness, boredom, anxiety, without labeling it as bad, wrong, or unwanted. You don't need to tell yourself, I should feel happy. I mustn't be angry. I have to think positively. Vipassana doesn't care what you think. It only asks, right now, our identification with it. That's where the suffering lies. When you truly see anger, without judgment or grasping, it will come, stay for a while, and pass on its own. Like a cloud drifting through the sky, no one needs to chase it away. It dissolves on its own. That is the quiet power of Vipassana. No inner battle. No suppression. No fixing. Just sustained, mindful observation, letting things return to their natural rhythm. In a modern world exhausted by philosophies, dogmas, and ideologies, Vipassana offers a radically simple and practical path. That reality may be uncomfortable, but the moment you turn toward it, transformation begins. Vipassana doesn't teach you to think more positively. It doesn't promise that you'll always feel peaceful or happy. Instead, it teaches you something more honest, more liberating. See things as they are. Healing happens, not through effort, but through clarity. 1.3. 2 paths, 1 goal, Vipassana and Samatha. Many newcomers to meditation often assume it's simply about relaxation, calming down. Samatha, the art of calming the mind. Samatha, Pali, means tranquility, calm, or concentration. It refers to the meditative approach that aims to soothe and stabilize the restless mind, bringing it into a state of stillness and peace. In Samatha, practitioners usually focus on a single object, like the breath, a mantra, or a visual image, and continuously return attention to that one point. Whenever the mind wanders, you gently guide it back. Over time, this leads to a stable and calm state of mind, like a still lake untouched by wind. Samatha offers significant benefits. It reduces anxiety, restlessness, and agitation. It quiets compulsive thinking, but doesn't investigate why the waves arise in the first place. It's a restful place, but not the final destination. Vipassana, the light of insight. Vipassana, as we've discussed, where attention is narrowed to one fixed point. Vipassana expands awareness to include whatever arises in the present moment, whether it's a sensation in the belly, a dull ache in the knee, or a flicker of thought passing through consciousness. Everything becomes an object of observation, not something to fix or change. When the mind is sufficiently calm, thanks to samatha, the practitioner begins to notice subtle shifts in the body and mind. And through this steady observation, wisdom arises. Everything arises and passes, nothing lasts. Emotions and thoughts are not me. They're just phenomena. Clinging leads to suffering. Letting go leads to freedom. One is stillness. The other is observation. One avoids thought. The other watches it. But in truth, these two practices are inseparable. Samatha is the ground. Vipassana is the seed. Samatha steadies the mind. Vipassana awakens it. Without samatha, the mind is too distracted to see clearly. But with only samatha, one might get lost in the comfort of stillness and never investigate deeper. That's why, in teachings like the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, the Buddha didn't separate the two. He interwove them seamlessly. As you observe the body, feelings, mind, and dhammas with mindfulness, calm naturally arises and insight follows. Not about feeling good, but seeing clearly. The clearest difference lies in the ultimate goal. Samatha helps you feel good, but suffering may return once meditation ends. But illuminating everything. The spiritual path needs both. Gentleness so we don't burn out, and courage so we don't turn away. In the light of Vipassana, samatha is not discarded. It becomes a quiet companion, giving us the strength and clarity to face ourselves honestly. There's no conflict here, only the right harmony at the right time, leading us back to reality as it truly is. And in that reality, suffering doesn't need to be conquered. It melts away on its own when fully understood. 1.4. The oldest path, yet never outdated. Some truths, no matter how ancient, remain untouched by time. Some paths, no matter how old, still lead us back to ourselves. Vipassana, insight meditation, is one such path. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't promise miracles. But quietly, steadily, it touches the very root of suffering and points the way beyond. Not a religion. It doesn't require belief in karma, rebirth, or any cosmology. All it requires is this: an open mind and a heart willing to see clearly what is. Vipassana doesn't ask you to believe anything. It simply invites you to observe your inner life, directly and honestly. No philosophy, no dogma, no one judging or forgiving you. Just this question, right now, in your body and mind, what is truly happening? And when you look with clear and steady awareness, suffering starts to unravel. The Buddha, a teacher, not a savior. More than 2,500 years ago. Don't believe just because I said it. See for yourself. Vipassana embodies that spirit. It's not based on faith, it's based on experience. There's no secret teaching, no special initiation. They may reject organized religion or traditional morality, but still yearn for something deeper, something real. Vipassana is a bridge for those seekers. You don't need to become a monk or leave your job. You don't have to live on a mountain. All you need is a few moments of quiet each day to observe the body, sensations, mind, and mental objects exactly as they are. And slowly, truth reveals itself. No one gives it to you. No one enlightens you. Vipassana gives back your most basic human right. The right to see for yourself, without filters, without intermediaries. Freedom through seeing impermanence. You don't need to search for happiness in the world. An emotion flares up, you identify with it, you suffer. Vipassana doesn't make these things disappear. But by seeing them clearly, you stop feeding them. You realize, this is just a sensation, a thought, a momentary event. It arises and passes away. It is not me, not mine, not permanent. And so, suffering begins to dissolve, not by force, but by understanding. No need to be saved. No need to change anything. Just a clear, honest, awake seeing. Though millennia have passed, Vipassana remains alive because it doesn't belong to time, culture, or religion. It only needs one thing: a human being, brave enough to turn inward and see clearly. And once you truly see, the path reveals itself. No guru needed. No belief required. Just you and your next mindful step. Section 2. Satipaṭṭhāna. The 4 foundations of mindfulness. 2.1. Satipaṭṭhāna. Satipaṭṭhāna forms the backbone of all Vipassana practice, the essential core for anyone walking the path of insight and awakening. The Pali word Satipaṭṭhāna combines sati, mindfulness, and pada, foundation or establishment. It is often translated as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. In the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, the Buddha makes an astonishing declaration. Ekyanawaya, Bhikkhave Mago. Monks, this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation. Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 10. This statement is not poetic or symbolic. The Buddha did not say it is one of many possible paths, but the only path, Ekayano Mago, a direct, unambiguous, and practical road. This is what makes the Buddha's teaching unique. Liberation is not granted through faith, but discovered through mindful observation. The four foundations of mindfulness are Vipassanā, contemplation of the body, observing the breath, posture, movement, and physical elements. Vipassanā, contemplation of feelings, observing pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral sensations. Satipaṭṭhāna, contemplation of the mind, observing mental states such as desire, aversion, delusion, clarity, doubt, or concentration. Vipassanā, contemplation of mental objects or phenomena, observing dhammas such as the five aggregates, the Four Noble Truths, the hindrances, and the factors of awakening. These aren't four isolated exercises. They are four dimensions of the lived human experience, from the physical to the mental, from gross to subtle. As a practitioner progresses through Vipassanā, and mental objects are always present, always unfolding. And when we learn to observe them with awareness, we begin to guide ourselves, rather than being lost in the maze of thought and emotion. Satipaṭṭhāna doesn't demand belief in a doctrine or philosophy. It simply invites you to observe, acknowledge, and awaken. Each moment of mindfulness is a step inward, a step toward knowing your true nature. And that path, though over 2,500 years old, remains alive today because it's not dependent on any external system. It only depends on your willingness to experience what is real, here and now. 2.2. The body, starting with what's most tangible, Vipassanā. On the path of inner observation. The Buddha didn't begin with abstract theories or metaphysical speculation. He didn't ask us to believe in a soul or seek out some ultimate essence. Instead, he pointed to something immediate, obvious, and always available, this very body. Vipassanā, contemplation of the body, is the first foundation of mindfulness in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta. Why begin with the body? Because it's the most tangible, accessible, and observable aspect of our experience. Even when our thoughts are scattered or emotions are stormy, the body is always here, breathing, sitting, walking. The breath, a gateway to the present. The first practice in contemplating the body is mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati. There's no need to alter or control the breath. Just observe it as it naturally flows in and out. As the mind begins to settle and attune to the breath, the practitioner comes home to the present moment. The breath becomes an anchor, grounding awareness and calming mental chatter. What's profound about the breath is its neutrality. It doesn't carry stories, opinions, or judgments. No doctrines are required. No philosophy to grasp. Just breathe and feel. In this simplicity, a portal opens, bringing the wandering mind back to what is real, here and now. Observing postures and everyday movements. Beyond breathing, Vipassanā includes awareness of the body's postures. Walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. In every position, the practitioner cultivates mindfulness, simply noting what the body is doing. When walking, know you're walking. When sitting, know you're sitting. It also means being consciously present in everyday movements, lifting a cup, opening a door, turning the head, stepping onto a bus. The body becomes a continuous object of meditation, not just during formal practice, but in the flow of daily life. The four elements, seeing the body as nature. A deeper layer of Vipassanā involves contemplating the body as composed of the four great elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Earth refers to solidity, bones, skin, teeth. Water is fluid, blood, saliva, sweat. Fire is heat, body temperature, digestion. Air is movement, breath, expansion, contraction. Through this lens, the body is no longer seen as me or mine, but as a temporary configuration of natural forces. The illusion of a solid, personal identity begins to dissolve, revealing the body to be part of the larger interplay of nature. The sense of self starts to unravel. The body as a gateway to wisdom. In Buddhist teaching, ignorance, avidya, is the root of suffering. But ignorance isn't just a lack of knowledge. It's mistaken perception, the habit of clinging to things as permanent, satisfying, or personal. To undo this, the Buddha directs us to observe the body, not through theory, but through direct experience. By observing the body objectively and non-reactively, we begin to break the automatic identification with it. We stop thinking, I am in pain, and instead see, there is pain. Not, I am breathing, but breathing is happening. This shift opens the door to insight. Liberation begins with clarity. You don't need to be a monk or a mystic to practice Vipassanā. You only need to pause, breathe, and notice. In a restless world, coming home to the body with mindful attention may be the most radical and healing thing we can do. Through the body, we begin to touch freedom. 2.3. Feeling. The root of reaction, Vipassanā. After establishing mindfulness with the body, through breath, posture, and movement, the next foundation in the Satipaṭṭhāna practice leads us inward, to feeling, or Vedana. This doesn't refer to complex emotions like sadness or anger, but to the basic sensations that arise in each moment of experience, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Vedana functions like an undercurrent beneath the surface of awareness, subtle, yet powerful enough to shape perception, behavior, and attachment. Moment by moment, body and mind are constantly reacting to these sensations, forming a cycle of craving and suffering. Yet right here, if we observe correctly, the entire engine of suffering can be interrupted and dismantled. Sensation, the seed of craving and aversion. Whenever we see something beautiful, hear a compliment, or touch something soothing, a pleasant feeling arises. When we encounter discomfort, an annoying sound, physical pain, or unwanted contact, an unpleasant sensation emerges. And during moments of calm or monotony, a neutral feeling appears. This may seem harmless, but it is precisely from these micro-sensations that the mind begins to react, liking, clinging, pushing away. Thus, greed, lobha, aversion, dosa. Observing feeling, breaking the automatic loop. Ordinarily, a sensation arises and we react instantly. If it feels good, we want more. If it feels bad, we want it to stop. Without resisting, just simply acknowledging it with mindfulness. When you see that a sensation is just another impermanent phenomenon, not me or mine, the mind stops reacting. In that moment, a simple but profound practice. In daily practice, you can observe sensations at any moment, while sitting, walking, eating, or even while listening to someone speak. What is the feeling in this moment? Pleasant? Unpleasant? Neutral? How does the mind respond? No need to analyze or overthink. Just notice the feeling as it is. At times, discomfort may arise, a desire to move, to resist, to escape. But if you simply observe it without reacting, something remarkable happens. The feeling fades away on its own, like a cloud drifting through the sky. From feeling toward deeper insight. Vipassanā isn't just about being aware of sensations. It's about seeing the full chain of consequences, attachment, aversion, mental proliferation, suffering. When you witness this process unfolding inside you, you don't need to fight it. You just stop feeding it. And that's the first taste of wisdom. Sensation becomes the seed of craving. But with awareness, it becomes a doorway to inner freedom. Once the body is seen as impermanent and sensation as empty, the mind naturally lightens, less reactive, more spacious. And from here, the practitioner is ready to enter the third foundation, contemplation of the mind, Satipaṭṭhāna, where we come face to face with the very mental states shaping our entire inner world. 2.4. The mind. A mirror reflecting invisible waves, Satipaṭṭhāna. As we begin to see the body and feelings more clearly, the mind gradually becomes more transparent. At this point, the practitioner steps into the third foundation of mindfulness, contemplation of the mind, Satipaṭṭhāna. If feeling is the origin of reactions, then the mind is where these reactions arise, amplify, and pull us into unconscious patterns. In daily life, the mind is like a turbulent river, full of whirlpools of greed, anger, doubt, daydreaming, and anxiety. But because we are so identified with these mental states, we rarely notice. This is a mind with greed, or this is a distracted mind. Vipassanā invites us to turn around and look directly at this mental stream, not to change or control it, but simply to see it for what it is. The mind is not me. One of the most profound insights during meditation is the realization that the mind is not the self. When anger arises, we no longer say, "I am angry," but instead recognize, anger is present in the mind. When delusion arises, we don't get pulled into it, but instead observe, the mind is clouded. This kind of observation is not avoidance. It is the only way not to be controlled. When we know the mind is restless, we don't try to force it to calm down. We just acknowledge it. When the mind is concentrated, we don't cling to it. We just stay aware. That very awareness is the light of insight, illuminating the dark corners we've never seen before. Seeing without clinging. The mind is a constant flow, sometimes clear, sometimes clouded, sometimes excited, sometimes dull. Without mindfulness, we're swept away by each wave. But with awareness, we become like someone standing on the shore, watching the waves without being carried away. For example, during meditation, if the mind drifts to the past, we simply note, the mind is remembering. If it worries about the future, we note, the mind is anxious. No need to suppress. No need to fix. That simple recognition is enough for the mind to return to itself. And gradually, we discover a remarkable truth. Every mental state is impermanent. None of them last. Whether joy, sadness, excitement, or disappointment, all arise and pass away. When we truly see this within our own mind, we are no longer ruled by emotional chaos. Observing the mind is knowing yourself. Contemplating the mind is not just a technique for calming down or managing emotions. It is a deep encounter with the truth of who we are. It helps us realize that what we call self is merely a collection of ever-changing mental states, and identifying with them is the root of suffering. In Vipassanā, whether it is concentrated or scattered, not to analyze or judge, but to see directly and be free from its influence. When the mind becomes clear like a mirror, faithfully reflecting each state without distortion from craving or aversion, the practitioner is ready to step into the fourth foundation. Contemplation of phenomena, Vipassanā, where the inner laws of body and mind are revealed and understood to their core. 2.5 Dhamma. Seeing the mechanics of suffering, Vipassanā. After observing the body, feelings, and mind, the practitioner reaches the deepest level of the four foundations of mindfulness. Contemplation of Dhammas, Vipassanā. Here, Dhamma doesn't refer to doctrine or scripture, but to mental phenomena, the inner dynamics of body and mind that fuel suffering or lead to liberation. In this stage, the practitioner examines the most subtle structures of experience. The five aggregates, Pancakanda, the mental defilements, Asava, and the Noble Eightfold Path. Insight now becomes more than just mindfulness of momentary sensations. It deepens into a penetrating wisdom that sees how everything arises, operates, and ceases. To see the Dhamma is to see the law. When one observes the five aggregates, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, clearly and objectively, a radical shift happens. These processes are no longer seen as me or mine. Feelings are not the self. Thoughts are not the self. Consciousness is not the self. Everything unfolds according to its own nature, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. The practitioner also begins to recognize the presence of mental defilements, craving, aversion, delusion. These inner toxins are seen as transient visitors. From seeing suffering to seeing the path. A crucial part of this foundation is the contemplation of the Noble Eightfold Path, not as a belief, but as an inner compass. Is the mind aligned with right mindfulness or lost in distraction? Are one's actions rooted in right intention? Is one's speech honest and compassionate? By measuring daily experience against the Eightfold Path, the practice becomes life itself, not separate from work, relationships, or daily routine. When both suffering and the path to its cessation are seen within one's direct experience, something profound emerges. There is nothing to eliminate, only something to be understood. Liberation doesn't come from self-improvement, but from clear seeing. Nothing to add, only to let go. Vipassanā is not about collecting knowledge or philosophies. It's about dismantling illusions, especially the illusion of self and the belief that happiness lies outside us. Vipassanā doesn't promise mystical states or metaphysical realms. It brings us back to reality, this moment, this breath, this body. And in this reality, suffering has a cause, and because it has a cause, it can cease. When the practitioner reaches this point of insight into Dhammas, seeing the full structure of how suffering arises and fades, wisdom is no longer abstract. It becomes a living light, illuminating each moment with clarity. No longer tossed by emotional waves, one stands on stable ground, free from delusion. From here, the practitioner no longer merely understands suffering, but begins to walk beyond it, guided by insight born not of belief, but of direct experience. Section 3. How Vipassanā transforms the mind. 3. We often try to reduce suffering through relaxation, productivity, positive experiences, or by avoiding negative emotions. But from the Buddha's perspective, Vipassanā doesn't help us escape suffering. It guides us to face it directly, instead of analyzing or explaining. Through the Satipaṭṭhāna, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, we begin to realize suffering doesn't mainly come from external conditions, but from within. It begins with a sensation, Vedana. If we are not mindful, we react. That reaction leads to craving or aversion. And from craving comes clinging, upadana. This is the link that sustains the cycle of suffering. And Vipassanā helps us see every step of this chain with clarity. Take anxiety, for example, a common reaction. Typically, one might try to think positively or analyze its cause to overcome it. In Vipassanā, you simply sit, breathe. You just acknowledge it is there. And slowly, you realize it's impermanent. It arises, and then it fades. You don't need to fix it. Simply seeing it clearly is already the path to release. This approach resonates with modern psychology. In cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, clients learn to identify and restructure negative thought patterns. In acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, they learn to accept thoughts and emotions without being ruled by them. Vipassanā goes deeper. Instead of changing or controlling thoughts, the meditator lets go of the need to interfere at all. When the mind stops reacting, suffering has nothing to cling to. Practicing Vipassanā doesn't make you indifferent. On the contrary, you feel life more deeply, but you are no longer swept away by your emotions. You can grieve without drowning, rejoice without losing yourself. You become truly free, not because you've mastered suffering, but because you've understood it. 3.2. Anicca. If we are mindful enough to see it. In Vipassanā, impermanence is not learned through books, but through direct experience. You sit down and observe your breath. After a while, a slight pain arises in your knee. You watch it. Instead of immediately shifting your posture, you simply note pain, pressure, changing sensation. And then, something surprising happens. The pain disappears. Or it moves. Or it becomes lighter. You did nothing to control it. You simply saw it arising and passing away. And in that moment, the urge to resist it fades. You realize it was never fixed to begin with. This seeing leads to letting go. Not a forced letting go, not I must detach, but a natural release that comes from understanding clinging is futile. When you observe that anger arises and passes on its own, you stop blaming yourself for negative emotions or resenting others for what they did. You see, everything is impermanent, including you. This insight closely aligns with modern mindfulness teachings. In programs like MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, letting go is considered one of the core attitudes. Yet teachers emphasize that letting go cannot be forced. It doesn't come from pushing something away, but from clearly seeing its impermanent nature, which softens attachment naturally. Even neuroscience today is beginning to validate what the Buddha taught over 2,500 years ago. The brain is not static. Thanks to neuroplasticity, we can retrain how we respond to internal and external stimuli, instead of reacting automatically with anger, fear, or craving. We can insert a mindful pause to observe before reacting or not reacting at all. That pause, that moment of clarity, is where anicca becomes alive and transformative. When we see that everything is in flux, we no longer need to hold on. Vipassanā does not ask us to renounce the world. It simply invites us to look deeply into its nature. And when we truly see impermanence, anicca, there's no need to force letting go. It happens on its own, like a leaf falling naturally when the wind gently lifts it from the branch. 3.3. Anatta. No self to protect or control. We spend most of our lives trying to protect something that was never really there, the self. We constantly seek to be right, to avoid pain, to maintain our image, to find worth in praise, all revolving around a vague sense of I am someone. But if we look closely, what is this so-called I? The Buddha called this misunderstanding ignorance, the root of all suffering. And the key to dissolving it is anatta, non-self. What is I really? In Vipassanā, no one asks you to believe that there is no self. You don't need to adopt any dogma. You're simply asked to look directly. When you observe the mind and body with clarity, something becomes clear. There is no central controller. Sensations arise and pass away. Thoughts come and go on their own. Emotions surge and fade. Intentions appear and dissolve. But in deep meditation, something inside you lets go. The urge to hold on, to control, to be someone begins to dissolve. Anatta isn't about denying yourself. It's about seeing clearly what the self is. Non-self doesn't mean you don't exist. It simply means that the thing we call self is not a fixed, permanent entity. It's a process, a stream of ever-changing experiences made up of the 5 aggregates: pancacandiform, body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. I'm sad. In reality, it's just a sad feeling is present. Sad thoughts are arising. The body is heavy. There is no owner of the sadness. No sufferer. Just suffering happening. And when that is seen clearly, the whole narrative of I am suffering begins to lose its grip, letting go of the protective reflex. When you believe in a solid self. But when you see that this self is just a habitual identification, a pattern of thoughts, memories, emotions, that protective reflex starts to melt away. Through consistent observation of the 5 aggregates, the I becomes more transparent, less solid, no longer something to control, prove, or protect. A mind at peace, no longer in conflict. When there's no solid self-image to defend, you don't need to fight anymore. You don't need to be better, to win, to impress, to prove. You don't need to fix your thoughts or justify your emotions. Non-self doesn't erase you, it frees you. Freed from clinging to the idea of me, the mind becomes spacious, open, and naturally compassionate. You begin to live more fully, not from a sense of identity, but from awareness itself. 3.4. No need to resist, just see clearly. Instead of changing life, Vipassanā changes how we see life. In much of our lives, we spend energy resisting, fixing, controlling. Fixing ourselves, fixing others, fixing the past, fixing emotions, fixing the mind. We believe that if we try hard enough, if we can control things well enough, we will find happiness. But it's often this very fixing that leaves us exhausted and restless. Vipassanā doesn't ask you to fix anything. It simply invites you to see clearly, truly, and directly what is happening in each moment. And the paradox is, when we see clearly, dukkha, we don't reduce suffering by escaping it, but by understanding its mechanism, from sensation-reaction clinging. Anicca, everything is impermanent, thoughts, emotions, even the body. Seeing this directly helps us let go naturally, without effort. Anatta, this self, is not a fixed entity but a temporary combination of the 5 aggregates. Seeing this releases the compulsion to defend or prove ourselves. When these 3 insights deepen, the mind begins to operate on a completely different logic, not through blind reaction, but through wisdom. No resistance, no control needed. When pain arises, there is no need to push it away. When negative emotions appear, we don't need to suppress or rationalize them. When thoughts surface, there's no need to argue with them or turn them into something more positive. We simply see clearly the whole process as it unfolds. No interference, no identification, no control. This is not passivity. This is deep wisdom. Understanding that trying to interfere often extends suffering rather than ending it. And true letting go doesn't come from forced effort. It comes from seeing that there's nothing to hold on to. Comparison with modern psychology. Modern psychology is increasingly embracing this idea of non-resistance. Consider the following. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, focuses on identifying and correcting distorted thoughts and unhelpful behavior. It's highly analytical. What am I thinking wrong? How can I change that? ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, goes one step further. It teaches us to accept our thoughts and feelings rather than fight them, while committing to action based on values. I don't need to be anxiety-free to act. I just need to act with awareness. Vipassanā goes beyond both fixing and accepting. It brings direct insight into the nature of experience. Thoughts are just thoughts. Emotions are just emotions. We don't need to do anything with them. When we truly see clearly, reactivity dissolves on its own. Vipassanā does not oppose modern therapies. It goes deeper. If CBT works at the level of content and ACT at the level of relationship, seeing that anger is just a passing state, seeing that the I is just a mental habit of identification, Vipassanā doesn't ask you to force yourself to be positive. Suffering no longer rules us, even when it's present. Section 4, Guided Practice. Mindful Seeing Through Vipassanā. 4.1. Finding Stillness. Preparing the body and mind. Sit still. Keep your spine upright. Gently close your eyes. Everything begins from this first moment of stillness. Before diving into the depths of insight meditation, we must first pause. It begins with something far simpler, the stillness of the body. We cannot observe the mind clearly if the body is restless. So we begin with physical stability. Sit down, grounded and relaxed. Find a quiet place. It doesn't need to be perfect, just somewhere you won't be disturbed for a little while. Sit on a meditation cushion, a bench, or a chair, whatever works for your body. What matters is that your spine is naturally upright, not stiff, just balanced, like a tree rising effortlessly from the earth. Let your shoulders relax. Your hands rest gently on your knees or in your lap. Slightly tuck your chin so the neck aligns with the spine. Close your eyes softly or lower your gaze. You don't have to get the posture right. What's important is to find a posture that feels steady and at ease. In that quiet balance, the mind begins to settle. Relax each part of the body. Now bring your attention into your body. Begin at the top of the head, then gradually soften the forehead, the space around your eyes, your cheeks and jaw. Notice if you're subtly clenching your teeth, and let it go. Relax the neck. Let the shoulders drop naturally, without effort. Feel your arms. Sense your palms. Move your attention down to the belly, the hips, the thighs. Relax your knees, your lower legs. All the way to the feet. If there's any tightness, just notice it, then gently breathe into it and allow it to soften. You don't need to force your body into perfect relaxation. Vipassanā is not about perfection. It's about seeing things as they are, including tension or restlessness. Come back to the present. Once your body is still, begin bringing the mind into this moment. You don't need to block out thoughts. You don't need to concentrate hard. Just become aware. You are here, sitting, breathing, feeling. Sounds may arise. Thoughts may drift through. Emotions might bubble up. That's okay. You don't need to fight or chase them. Let them come and go like clouds passing across the sky. You don't have to do anything. You only need to see. Planting the seed of non-interfering observation. From here, you begin to embody the spirit of Vipassanā, mindfulness without reaction. You're no longer trying to control your inner world. You become a witness, like a mirror, reflecting whatever appears, without resistance or attachment. The body becomes the ground. Upon that ground, the mind begins to settle. As you observe without interfering, space opens up and wisdom arises from that space. You're not doing meditation. You're allowing meditation to happen naturally. As stillness arises in the body and clarity begins to form in the mind. Take a pause. Now, stop for a few moments. Sit quietly. Don't rush to the next part. Just feel your body being present. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath. No effort is needed. Just awareness and stillness. You may add soft ambient music or let the silence speak. Let your viewer experience what they've just read directly, wordlessly. For point 2, the breath, a doorway into the present. Sit still and gently close your eyes. There's no need to force relaxation, nor is there anything special you need to do. Just allow your body and mind to settle in this moment as they are. From there, Gently bring your attention to the breath, not to control or manipulate it, but simply to observe it as it is. Breathing in, breathing out. That's all. Everything begins from here. The breath is always present, from the moment we are born until the moment we die. Yet rarely do we truly pay attention to it. In Vipassanā meditation, or think about it, just sense the movement of air at the tip of the nose, or the rising and falling of the abdomen as it passes through. If the mind wanders, simply and gently bring it back, without judgment, without forcing, without straining to concentrate. Mindfulness is a quality of openness, not an effort of tension. At first, you may notice how subtle the breath is. Just as you begin to focus, the mind may already drift elsewhere. That's completely normal. Don't be discouraged. This capacity for noticing is what truly matters. It's not about how many times you lose mindfulness, but how many times you recognize it. Each return to the breath is a moment of training in awareness, and a moment where you're no longer fully dominated by automatic reactions. As you continue to sit and observe the breath, you may begin to feel a natural stillness spreading through body and mind. You don't need to force calmness. It arises on its own when the mind begins to disengage from chasing thoughts. You'll notice how the breath is never the same. It changes in length, depth, and rhythm. Sometimes it may feel like it almost disappears. Don't try to bring it back. Just observe what's happening. This ever-changing nature of breath is your first direct lesson in impermanence. Everything comes and goes, and you are merely the silent witness, not the controller. The breath is a natural process. It knows what to do without your intervention. Your task is to change your role, from being the owner of the breath to being the observer. It's like watching a river flow. You don't control its current, you simply watch it move. Observing the breath is the same. As your observing mind becomes more stable, you begin to gain distance from thoughts and emotions. You're no longer pulled into them instantly. You begin to see them, and with that, you gain the freedom to choose to remain in the present. Take a few minutes to simply stay here, with each breath, each inhalation and exhalation, without trying to change anything. If sounds arise, if discomfort arises in the body, if images or memories appear, that's fine. Let them come and go like clouds in the sky. You don't follow them, nor do you resist. Just gently return to the breath, right here, right now. As you sit longer, you may start to sense that the breath is more than just a physical rhythm. It's a bridge between body and mind. Every time you return to the breath, you're returning to life itself. Not life as a concept, but as a direct experience. Each breath is a heartbeat of life, a sign that you are still here. And if you fully live in each breath, then the past no longer traps you, and the future no longer drags you. You are completely free. The beauty of it is, you don't need to become someone else. Or, get it right. You just need to return to your own breath, exactly where you are. No extra conditions are needed to begin. Whether you are stressed, lazy, bored, or anxious, all of it can be part of your practice, starting with the breath. You don't have to be in the right state of mind. You only need to be present in this moment. The breath, though it seems simple, is a great teacher. It teaches impermanence, as you watch it continuously change. It teaches non-self, as you realize no one is actually doing the breathing. And it teaches letting go, as you stop trying to control and instead simply sense and accept. This is not an intellectual understanding, but a direct knowing through lived experience in every moment of meditation. With continued practice, you'll see that the breath not only helps you stay mindful during formal meditation, it also becomes your anchor in daily life. When you're anxious, breathe. When you're angry, breathe. When you're confused, breathe. And not to breathe correctly, but to know that you're breathing. That alone can bring you one step out of reactivity and into awareness. In Vipassanā, the breath is not the final goal, but it is a firm beginning, a loyal companion. It is always with you, never leaving your side. Whether you are happy or sad, alert or tired, the breath continues, asking nothing in return. When you stop to observe it, you're learning how to pause amidst the flow of life, to not be swept away, to not lose yourself. So do not underestimate the breath. Whether you've practiced meditation for years or are just starting out, returning to the breath is always the gateway to the present. Each full. It might be a warmth in the palms, a dull ache in the lower back, a tightness in the neck, or just a neutral tingling across the skin. In Vipassanā, these sensations are not distractions. They are the very object of meditation. They are gateways to experiencing the truth of each moment. The essential skill here is to recognize without reacting. You don't need to do anything with the sensation. No need to adjust, push away, or chase after it. Simply note, there is an itch, there is warmth, there is tingling. It may sound simple, but this marks a radical shift in how the mind interacts with experience. Normally, when a painful sensation arises, the mind automatically resists it, becoming irritated or frustrated. When a pleasant sensation appears, it clings, trying to prolong or possess it. Vipassanā invites you to observe this whole chain of reaction and not get entangled in any part of it. Every sensation is a chance to witness anicca, impermanence. Whether it's an itch, a throb, or something delightful, no sensation lasts forever. When you pause and simply observe, you'll see clearly. The sensation arises, lingers for a while, and then fades away. Even something intense will gradually dissolve with a few breaths of mindful attention. Not because you did something to make it go away, but because you didn't feed it with reaction. This is how the mind lets go, not through force, but through clear seeing. Vipassanā also helps you realize that sensations are not limited to the physical body. They manifest in the mind as well. Subtle feelings like restlessness, agitation. When we lack mindfulness of sensation, we get caught in craving or aversion, thus reinforcing the cycle of suffering. But when you practice observing sensations with equanimity, that automatic chain of reaction begins to dissolve. The mind no longer reflexively grasps or resists. A space opens up, a pause between sensation and reaction, and in that space, freedom is born. From the perspective of modern psychology, this aligns with theories of emotional regulation. When you notice a feeling arising without acting on it, you're training the brain to form a new response, one based on awareness instead of instinct. Neuroscientific studies also show that observing emotions mindfully decreases activity in the amygdala, the brain's emotional reaction center, and increases activation in the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for self-regulation and reason. So the next time you're meditating and a painful sensation arises, remember, this is not a mistake. This is the real work. That sensation is your teacher. Simply observe. No judgment, no resistance, no identification. Keep breathing, keep noticing, and let things unfold as they are. There's no need to do anything with the sensation, because this very non-doing is the doorway to inner freedom. 4.4. Thoughts and emotions, waves on the ocean. Thoughts come, thoughts go. You don't need to follow them. Once the mind settles into the breath and body sensations, another natural phenomenon begins to arise, streams of thoughts appearing in the background of awareness. These may come as memories, plans for tomorrow, vague worries, or deep-seated emotions like sadness, joy, anger, or fear. In Vipassana meditation, we do not try to block these thoughts, nor do we chase after them. We simply recognize them and gently return to the present. No one can stop thoughts from arising. Like waves on the surface of the ocean, they come and go on their own. Trying to suppress them only leads to more tension. Instead, we choose to observe, like someone standing on the riverbank, watching the flow without jumping in. When a thought appears, simply note, thinking is happening, or worry is present, or remembering. No need to analyze or judge. This simple act, recognizing without attachment, is where transformation begins. In meditation, what matters most is not keeping the mind blank, but developing the ability to return. Every time the mind drifts into a thought, a memory, or an emotion, you can gently smile, note the mind has wandered, and bring it back to the breath, the body, the present. Each return is a strengthening of mindfulness, the very capacity that allows us to live with awareness, both in meditation and daily life. Sometimes, thoughts may arrive with strong emotional currents, sadness, anger, jealousy, fear. Rather than trying to push them away, Vipassanā invites us to observe more deeply. For example, when anger arises, you might note, anger is present, and also sense how it manifests in the body, perhaps heat in the chest, tightness in the stomach, or tension in the shoulders. In this way, You move from being the anger to seeing the anger, and in that seeing, freedom begins. As you practice this over many sessions, a profound insight emerges. Thoughts are not me. Your awareness is that sky. Thoughts are merely clouds. You don't need to hold on or push away. You just watch them float by. This approach aligns closely with modern psychology, but can see them as mental events. Instead of believing, I'm not good enough, you notice, I'm having a thought that I'm not good enough. That slight shift creates space, and within that space, freedom arises. Returning to meditation practice, every time you get lost in thought and come back, it's not a failure. It's actually a moment of success, because you're training the mind to return. Whether in meditation or daily life, you'll realize you no longer need to fight your thoughts or emotions. You don't need to chase them, nor be swept away by them. You only need to see them clearly and return. Stillness doesn't come from eliminating thoughts, but from no longer being ruled by them. That is true freedom. For point 5, returning. The art of coming back. Each time we realize we've drifted away from the present moment and gently return to the breath, to the body, to bare sensation, this simple act is a quiet victory of mindfulness. It's not a triumph over someone else, nor is it about achieving anything grand. It is a subtle triumph over ignorance, over the mind's deeply rooted habit of reacting, escaping, clinging. In Vipassanā meditation, returning is never a failure. It is the very essence of the practice. The nature of the mind is to wander. The meditator's task is not to suppress this, but to patiently come back, again and again. Throughout this journey, we began by observing the breath, without controlling or manipulating it, without adjusting, without resisting or escaping. This was our first lesson in impermanence. Every sensation eventually changes if we can watch it long enough without interference. Then came thoughts, flashes of memory, a stray image, a fragment of conversation. Instead of chasing them, as we usually do, we simply noticed, a thought is arising. And we returned. The mind might drift off again. We come back again and again, not with urgency, not with judgment, not with the desire to do it right, but with gentleness. Every return is a reminder to the mind. This moment is where life actually happens. The deeper we go into practice, the more we realize that meditation isn't about reaching some extraordinary state. It is about becoming familiar with this act of returning. It is the art of coming back in the midst of life's flow. It is the capacity to remain grounded, not swept away by the undercurrent of unconscious habit. In daily life, while walking, washing dishes, or listening to someone, if we notice we've been distracted or swept away by emotion, and return to the breath or the body, that too is meditation. Vipassanā doesn't end at the cushion, it becomes a way of being. What matters is not how many times we lose mindfulness, but how many times we return. Each moment of forgetfulness is a doorway to awareness. Each return is a step forward on the path of liberation. So don't resent distraction, it's part of the journey. Let every return be an act of self-compassion, not regret, not struggle, just a coming back. And over time, this act of returning becomes more natural, more effortless. Like someone lost who has learned the landmarks well, it takes only a small signal to realize the way back. Mindfulness becomes less something we do and more something we live. From this natural presence, wisdom begins to grow, not from thinking, but from direct experience through the body, the mind, and the truth of phenomena. Breath, sensation, mind, and Dhamma, we've observed them all in stages. And no matter how many times we stray, so long as we return, we are still meditating. In Vipassanā, there is no failure, only seeing clearly. When the mind craves immediate results, one of the most subtle yet pervasive obstacles in Vipassanā practice is expectation. From the moment we begin this journey, most of us carry a certain desire to quiet the mind, to be free of suffering, to attain something special. At first, these desires may seem like healthy motivation, something that helps us stay committed. But if we don't clearly recognize the nature of expectation, it quickly becomes a trap. Expectation is simply a refined form of craving, delicate but deeply influential. In meditation, expectation doesn't always appear obviously. It may be a quiet yearning for pleasant sensations, for a profound sense of peace, or for some extraordinary experience. When these things don't arise, or arise only to fade away, we start to feel disappointed. We question ourselves, wondering if we're meditating incorrectly or if the method isn't working. The mind then reacts by seeking out new techniques, different teachers, or worse, by giving up altogether. This runs directly counter to the spirit of Vipassanā. No chasing, no clinging, no striving, only observation. The more we expect, the less mindfulness we have. Expectation always pulls the mind into the future. We no longer see clearly what is happening now, but instead compare it to what we think should be happening. The mind starts analyzing, why isn't today's meditation as deep as yesterday's? I should be feeling calmer by now. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Although these thoughts may seem earnest, they quietly pull us away from the present. Every time the mind measures the gap between what is and what should be. The aim of Vipassanā is to see the true nature of all phenomena, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. When pain arises, we observe it as it is. When comfort comes, we simply note it without attachment. When the mind feels dull, restless, or empty, we still continue to observe. It is this willingness to face all states without reaction or preference that allows the mind to be liberated. Every expectation that arises during meditation is an opportunity. There's no need to fight against it. Doing so is just another form of reaction. Instead, we can simply recognize it. This is expectation. This is the mind wanting a special experience. The mind gradually learns to let go, not through force, but through understanding. When we release expectation, something paradoxical happens. The meditation deepens, not in the way we hoped for, but in a more grounded, subtle way. This depth doesn't manifest as bright lights or extraordinary sensations, but as a quiet clarity, a simplicity so ordinary that there is nothing to cling to. It is here that the practice becomes effortless, flowing, unforced. And within that ordinariness, insight begins to emerge. Meditation is not about chasing a result. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to eliminate. Just keep returning to yourself, to what is present right now, with simplicity, honesty, and without pressure. This is the path to true freedom. 5. 2. Resistance. When we try to eliminate discomfort. One of the most common misunderstandings in Vipassana meditation is the belief that meditation should always lead to pleasant, peaceful, or relaxed experiences. So when the body begins to feel pain, tension, or itchiness, or when the mind becomes restless, agitated, or uncomfortable, many people instinctively react. It is about seeing clearly the true nature of whatever is happening, including discomfort. When pain arises, instead of reacting with the impulse of, I want this to stop, the meditator is gently reminded, pain is not the enemy. It is just another object to observe. Pain, itching, numbness, tension, pulsation, tightness, all of it is part of the human experience, and all of it is subject to impermanence. These sensations arise and pass away. They are not fixed. If you can remain still and aware, observing clearly without reacting, you create a conflict between what is and what I want. That battle is always a losing one. Instead of fighting, Vipassana invites you to return to being the observer, to see the sensation clearly, along with the mental reaction it provokes, to watch the unfolding of the experience, the arising, changing, and fading away, rather than suppressing or enduring the sensation with force. You approach it with mindful openness, a presence that doesn't try to defend, control, or resist. This marks a fundamental shift in your relationship with discomfort. You no longer try to eliminate pain, you learn to befriend it. You no longer see unpleasant sensations as obstacles. You recognize them as opportunities. Because each time you observe without reacting, you begin to realize impermanence, not as a theory, but as a living truth within your body and mind. Still, maintaining clear observation in the face of intense sensation is not easy. This is why returning to the breath becomes an essential support. The natural breath is your base, your anchor, the quiet frame holding steady amid the storm of sensation. When you feel overwhelmed by reaction, gently shift your attention back to the breath for a few seconds. Feel the air entering and exiting. Then, when you feel ready, return to observing the discomfort, not to get rid of it, but to see it more clearly. Mindfulness here does not mean gritting your teeth and bearing through the pain. It means cultivating the clarity to see the entire process. Sensation arises, the mind wants to resist, tension appears in the body, awareness returns. Each time you complete that cycle with awareness, you open a small gap between sensation and reaction. That gap is where freedom begins. Over time, you realize there is no need to resist discomfort. You can stay with it as a neutral witness, and it will pass on its own. With continued practice, something remarkable happens. Sensations that once triggered panic, resistance, or fear now become moments of calm. Not because the sensations have disappeared, but because the mind has stopped fighting them. The pain is still there, but the suffering is gone. When peace becomes a trap, there is a paradox that often arises on the path of Vipassanā meditation. When a practitioner begins to experience deep tranquility, those moments when the mind is utterly still, relaxed, and filled with a profound sense of ease, there emerges a subtle yet powerful danger: becoming attached to peace. This peace is genuine, vivid, and sometimes so deep that one might feel they have touched enlightenment. But what is often overlooked is this: even pleasant states are just phenomena arising in the stream of experience. They are impermanent, conditioned, and subject to change. And if one does not observe them clearly, it is not like craving for material comfort or resisting pain. It wears the mask of spiritual progress and can even hide behind thoughts like, "I'm meditating well," or "I'm approaching awakening." But if you look deeply, the inner motivation is still rooted in craving, a refined kind of desire. The desire to preserve pleasant sensations, to maintain stillness, to avoid discomfort. They continue observing it like any other sensation, with mindfulness, without interference. Insight begins to arise. The practitioner learns to live with all states, not avoiding discomfort, not chasing delight. The mind becomes more balanced. Whether you're in a state of joy or simply resting in neutrality, gently noting the natural in and out flow of breath helps prevent the mind from getting lost in special states. When peace arises, you can softly note, "Pleasant feeling is here," then return to sensing the breath. This keeps the mindfulness steady and prevents subtle clinging. Do not cling, even to so-called good states, because the moment you think, "This state is better than the last," you've already veered away from the essence of Vipassanā. In insight meditation, the mind gradually learns how to let go, not by pushing something away, but by loosening its grip. Not fearing pain, not chasing pleasure, not running, not clinging, just clearly seeing. And in that clarity, a quiet kind of freedom begins to emerge. A freedom not based on condition or state, but rooted in the capacity to be fully present, moment to moment, with whatever is arising. 5. 4. Returning. The art of overcoming all obstacles. There is no obstacle greater than forgetting that you are meditating. On the path of Vipassanā meditation, the enemies we must overcome. But if we look more closely, we'll discover something simple yet profound. All these difficulties stem from a common root: forgetfulness, or the loss of mindfulness. We forget that we are meditating, forget that we are observing, forget that we are just the one who sees, not the one who reacts. When we begin to crave a special experience, that too is a form of forgetfulness, because in that moment, we are no longer clearly observing the sensation, but reacting to it. Even clinging to peace, a state that seems ideal, is just another form of losing sight of the nature of reality. Thus, the greatest obstacle in meditation is not pain, not thoughts, not failure to remain still. It is forgetting to come back. Because in the moment we forget, our minds drift away into habits, into reactions, into the whirlpool of conditioned behavior. Meditation ceases to be meditation. It becomes internal struggle, a subtle chase that we don't even recognize. Fortunately, the way to overcome these obstacles is not complex. We don't need to fight thoughts, force concentration, or punish ourselves for getting distracted. The solution is surprisingly simple: just come back. Whenever you notice that your mind has wandered into a thought, a pain, or a strong emotion, gently return to the breath. Feel the air moving in and out at the tip of the nose. But because, in the midst of the waves, you remembered that you are the observer. That is the nature of mindfulness: unpretentious, quiet, without the need for special states. And it is these small, steady steps that form the true foundation of progress in Vipassanā. At this point, you may begin to realize something crucial. Washing dishes, speaking, can we return to the breath, to the body, to the feeling present right now? This opens the door to our next section, where meditation is no longer confined to silent moments, but becomes a way of living mindfully amid the everyday flow of life. Section 6. Ending, Reflection, and Daily Life Application. 6. 1. You did something powerful today. Even though all you did was sit in silence, observing your breath, bodily sensations, and the stream of thoughts passing by. Nothing outside you had to change, yet you have begun to change from within. Let's look back on what you've practiced. You began by finding stillness, straightening the spine, relaxing the body. You didn't chase after the thoughts, nor did you push them away. You simply saw and gently returned to the breath. Again and again. That returning, that quiet pivot back to awareness, is the true practice. You don't have to meditate well. You just have to notice when you've strayed and gently come back. That alone is the path. Maybe nothing extraordinary happened during this session. No bright lights, no floating sensations, no mystical experiences. And that's perfectly fine. But also while eating, walking, speaking, and living amidst the noise of the world. 6.2. Daily Practice, Daily Clarity. After such a deep meditation journey, what truly matters is not chasing stronger experiences, but nurturing consistency. Just as the body needs food each day to survive, the mind needs care, cleansing, and nourishment through regular meditation. Many people assume that long sittings are necessary to gain benefits. But in truth, it is continuity, not duration, that brings transformation. Even just 5 to 10 minutes a day, if practiced with mindfulness and sincerity, is enough to soften the roughness inside, to bring you back to yourself amid the chaos and demands of daily life. Or your day nearly over. If you come back, you are practicing rightly. Meditation doesn't require special conditions. You don't need a designated room, ritual clothing, or soothing music. A quiet corner is enough, your bedroom, a balcony, even your office space. What matters most is your resolve and willingness to meet yourself. When you sit down, rest your hands on your knees. One of the most effective ways to build a daily habit is to anchor your meditation to a consistent moment in your routine. Choose a fixed time, early in the morning when the world is still quiet, or at night before sleep. This becomes your sacred window, undisturbed by work, messages, or external duties. In the beginning, you might forget or skip some days. That's okay. Gently return the next day. What's beautiful is that over time, the more you practice, the more you'll feel something is missing on days you don't, just like how your body naturally feels thirsty when lacking water. You can also link meditation to familiar activities to build a rhythm. For instance, meditate for 5 minutes after brushing your teeth or 10 minutes after your morning tea. These small rituals, repeated daily, will slowly carve a deep groove into your life. Eventually, meditation won't feel like something you have to do, but simply something that naturally belongs to you. Remember, every moment of mindfulness is like bathing your mind. Just like we don't wait until our bodies are filthy to shower, we shouldn't wait until the mind is overwhelmed or exhausted to meditate. Practice not to get something, but to preserve something precious already within you. Gradually, you'll begin to notice that clarity doesn't only arise during formal sitting. It starts to spill into seemingly ordinary moments, when you're washing dishes, listening to someone speak, or watching raindrops on your window. These moments become vibrant and meaningful, not because they are special, but because you are truly present. Finally, remind yourself, you don't need to sit long. If you can only stay mindful when you're still and silent, then most of your life, filled with movement, activity, and interaction, will remain outside the light of awareness. That's why the natural next step after sitting meditation is to bring mindfulness into daily life, while eating, walking, working, talking, or even resting. This isn't a burdensome task. It's a gentle invitation to live more deeply with yourself and the world around you. Start with the simplest things. When you eat, feel the contact with your lips, teeth, and tongue. Chew slowly and notice how the flavors unfold. In that moment, you are not just feeding the body, You are nourishing the whole of your being. Every meal becomes a meditation, a ritual of care and connection. When walking, you can also practice. You don't need a forest or mountain path. Even the hallway in your home or the walk to the market is enough. Just slow down a little. Feel the contact of your feet with the ground. Each step in mindfulness is a step on sacred ground. Mindfulness is not just for the body. It also lives in how we relate to others. When someone speaks to you, instead of preparing a response or letting your mind wander, you can choose to listen with your full presence. Listen not just with your ears, but with your eyes, your heart, and a quiet openness. This kind of listening is healing, because the other person will feel seen, received, and not judged or interrupted. Even the most ordinary actions, washing dishes, folding clothes, opening doors, the smooth surface of the plate, the scent of the soap. Don't rush to finish and move on to the next task. Don't get lost in thoughts of past or future. Each moment is an invitation to return, to pause, and to be with what is. What matters most is not forcing yourself to be mindful all the time, because that kind of pressure only breeds tension. See this as a natural process. Sometimes you'll remember. Sometimes you'll forget. That's okay. Each time you remember and return, you strengthen the path of awareness inside. Gradually, you'll find your mind becoming softer, more open, and less reactive than before. Living the practice also means learning to face strong emotions in everyday life. When anger arises, instead of reacting immediately, you can notice, anger is here. Pause. Feel the breath. Observe the sensations, tightness in the chest, heat in the belly. Simply be aware. No need to suppress. No need to explode. This awareness gives you space, not to be controlled by the emotion, but to witness it with clarity and compassion. And when joy arises, mindfulness helps you enjoy it more fully. You don't need to capture it, post it, or hold it tight. Just be with it. Feel it completely, and then let it go. Because you know, all states, pleasant or unpleasant, are impermanent, passing like clouds across the sky. In essence, living the practice means living with yourself, genuinely, fully, and deeply. Not to become a good meditator, but to return to the simple miracle of being alive in each moment. Every act can be a path. Every breath, every step, every glance can open the door to presence. And in this busy world, not to arrive somewhere else, but to return to yourself. Perhaps you've noticed a few sensations. Perhaps you've encountered nameless thoughts, moments of restlessness, or rare glimpses of quiet. However your journey unfolded, the most important thing is, you showed up. You made the choice to pause in the midst of a busy world and turn inward. No step on the path of mindfulness is ever wasted. Each time you come back, each moment you realize you're breathing, is a small awakening. And those small awakenings, repeated day by day, gradually open the door to deep clarity within you. The journey doesn't end here. Meditation isn't just for these 60 quiet minutes. It's in how you listen to others, how you walk, how you eat, or simply how you smile to yourself. Don't try to meditate better. Just keep returning, gently, consistently, like the breath that flows in and out of you. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your trust, your patience, and your courage to go inward. May you be well. May you see clearly. May you be free. Have you ever paused, truly paused, just to ask yourself, why do I always feel like I'm rushing through life? Why is my mind never truly at ease? We grow up in noise. We learn how to chase goals we never questioned. We hurry to attach our names to roles, the good child, the capable colleague, the successful adult in society's eyes. And one day, between notifications, unread emails, and unspoken emotions, our mind becomes a box filled with automatic responses. Maybe you thought you were awake, but ask yourself, do you truly see what's happening inside you? Do you recognize the impulses that flare up, the quiet fears that shape your choices, the subtle attachments disguised as logic? The truth is, most of the time, we're not living. We're reacting. We react to loneliness by craving attention. We react to insecurity by chasing achievements. We react to inner emptiness by consuming more, doing more, distracting more. And still, life feels heavy. But what if there's another way to live? Not by escaping, not by fixing everything, but by seeing clearly as things are, without judgment.